In this session we're going to look at mind maps and see how we can use mind maps for purposes of revision. And we're going to do this by looking at a mind map itself. So why do we use mind maps? Mind maps are a great way of remembering things because they work with your brain. They work in the way that your brain remembers and understands information. Part of this is by producing a visual overview in a format that mirrors the way the brain is set up. This is particularly helpful when it comes to memory. We easily remember things that are visual, say things like photographs or whatever. This is important because your brain has a left side and a right side. The left side is the logical side that works with words, numbers and sequences. The right side works with pictures and creativity and ideas. And using both sides is very important, so that's what we do in mind maps. A mind map will always be personal to you. They're your ideas, and how they're produced and written down is totally up to you. There's no marks for excellent drawing. They're your ideas, and if you understand them, that's great. So how do we do a mind map? First of all, it's always done in a landscape format. That's very important because that's the way our minds and brains take in information most easily, hence the reason that your televisions are that way around. From a size point of view, mind maps are ideally done on A3 sheets of paper. A key component of mind maps are images. Again, it doesn't matter about your drawing skills, but the ability to draw pictures is a very important part of creating a good mind map. Our brains think and see in colour all the time, so having colour as a component of your mind map is particularly important, particularly perhaps when it comes to going over and reviewing a mind map. The use of colour really brings it out. One of the other key aspects of mind maps is the idea of keywords. Not writing lots, but using keywords, probably best written in capital letters, to actually demonstrate those ideas. Humour is also another key element. Things that you find funny, you will tend to remember. And again, it's your sense of humour that matters, so it doesn't matter if it makes no sense to anybody else, but if you find it funny, you will remember it. So any little personal jokes or whatever, put those in. Again, you will find it more straightforward. The shape and structure of a mind map is something that actually mirrors the structure of the brain and the way that the brain organises and thinks about information. So a central idea with main branches coming off and then sub-branches on each of those with words and pictures on each of those branches, which is what we're actually doing at this point. Once you have your mind map, the next key thing is how you actually use it. Most important is the idea of reviewing, actually looking at repeats. So a very key idea is that your memory of any particular thing will actually drop off when you've learnt it. You forget things. If you go back and review it again, say after half an hour, then you'll find that actually you remember a bit more. If you do it again a day later, you remember still more. A week later, even more, and a month later, and it begins to become embedded in your long-term memory, and you're actually remembering pretty well 90% of what it was you started out at. So when you review a mind map, you need really to add things to it and to build on it and extend it. One of the things you can add is some more notes and words. Another aspect would be to add additional colour, or to actually use a highlighter to build in highlights for particular areas of the mind map. Now, perhaps to give an example of how you might do this, supposing we take something like food groups as an example. So you start by putting food groups as an area and draw some kind of picture which reminds you that it's to do with food. So we'll start here with a burger of some description. Draw out the lines for the different food groups. Let's say there are 5 in this particular case. And for each one, start to write on what that food group is. So we start with fats, we like carbohydrates, and again, any little pictures which help you to remember what you're talking about helps. We have proteins, then we would have vitamins, and lastly minerals. And then for each of those main ones, break it down into subgroups. So let's take vitamins. We can turn that into vitamin A, C and D. And then you would look at what vitamin A comes from. So in this case from carrots, or vitamin C, which actually comes from lemons. And then perhaps put some pictures in to describe what they do. So one helps you to see in the dark. Vitamin C is good for healthy gums. D you find in milk and actually helps good bone development and prevents things like rickets. And then, as I said, the use of colour just to highlight and pick out certain pieces, particularly when you review it, helps your brain to take in that information and to keep it for when you need it.